You thought it was harmless, just attention, just presence, just curiosity. But little by little, something changed. His words began to carry more weight. His energy started to pull you closer, and before you fully realized it, you had feelings for a man who could never truly be yours, a married man. And that is where everything becomes more complicated than you imagined. At first, you told yourself you had control. You believed you could enjoy the way he looked at you, the way he seemed to understand you, without ever letting it go too far. But the unconscious does not obey logic. Carl Jung explained that the unconscious holds truths that surface whether we allow them or not. What begins as attention often transforms into attraction, and attraction into something that feels impossible to ignore. The truth is that falling for a married man awakens parts of you that you didn't even know were waiting. His stability, his commitment, his aura of devotion, even if it belongs to someone else, create a magnetic pull. Unlike men who come and go freely, he feels anchored. To your unconscious mind, that anchor represents safety. He is not just a man, he is an archetype of permanence. And archetypes are not easily forgotten. That is why the bond feels so intense. It is not about the time you spent together, or even the words exchanged. It is about the meaning that your psyche attaches to him. In your mind, he becomes the reflection of what you long for most: loyalty, presence, a devotion that endures. This is what makes his energy so powerful. And it is also what makes it dangerous, because as the attraction grows, so does the conflict inside you. You know his devotion is already claimed by someone else. You know that no matter how close he feels, there is a barrier that cannot be crossed without breaking something deep inside of you. The very qualities that made him magnetic, his commitment, his constancy, his stability, are also the qualities that remind you he can never fully belong to you. This contradiction tears you apart. On one side, you crave the attention and the intimacy he offers. On the other, you feel the weight of betrayal. Betrayal of his wife, betrayal of your own values, betrayal of the life you once imagined for yourself. You sense the future you want will never grow from this connection. And the more you realize it, the heavier it feels. So why does it stay with you? Why do women remember these bonds so vividly, even after they step away? Because intimacy with a married man is not only about desire, it is about identity. It awakens parts of your unconscious that cannot easily go back to sleep. Jung called this the shadow, the hidden side of you that you ignore until it forces itself into the light. When you fall for someone unavailable, your shadow comes alive with intensity, longing, and shame. You don't want to face it, but you cannot deny it either. You carry his presence in ways you cannot explain. A phrase he once said echoes in your mind at random moments. The way he looked at you surfaces when you least expect it. You compare others to him without even realizing you were doing it. And the harder you try to bury those memories, the deeper they seem to carve themselves into you. This is not weakness, it is the power of the unconscious, holding on to an archetype. It refuses to release. And yet, there is another truth hidden beneath this. What you truly miss is not only him. What you miss is what he represented. His marriage symbolized devotion. His presence symbolized stability. His life symbolized the kind of anchoring you crave for yourself. He became unforgettable, not because of who he was in every detail, but because of what your psyche projected onto him. In him, you saw the archetype of loyalty that you needed to recognize in your own journey. This is why women walk away even while their hearts burn. It is not because the connection was meaningless, but because it meant too much. You knew that staying would cost you your peace, your self-respect, maybe even your future. And so you leave, but leaving does not erase what was awakened. Instead, it forces you to live with the memory, and with the ache of knowing you felt something you could never fully claim. There is regret in this too. You regret allowing yourself to feel so deeply for someone who was never yours. You regret crossing lines inside your own heart. You regret realizing too late the cost of giving energy to something forbidden. But regret does not wipe away the memory. If anything, regret makes the memory even sharper. Because the more you tell yourself you should forget, the more unforgettable it becomes. Jung believed that what is repressed does not disappear. It returns in stronger forms. When you try to push away the feelings, they return as dreams, as comparisons, as sudden waves of longing. You may not speak of it, but inside you carry the imprint of a man who represented more than he ever knew. That imprint is not only about him, it is about the part of yourself that woke up in his presence. And this is the paradox. You did not only fall for a man, You fell for what he symbolized in your unconscious. That is why the memory lingers. That is why he becomes unforgettable. Because he showed you, even if only for a short time, what devotion and stability feel like. And once you have tasted that energy, it is almost impossible to pretend you do not need it. This experience changes you. Even if you never speak of it, even if you bury it deep, you are no longer the same woman you were before. You have touched something powerful, something dangerous, something that revealed truths about your own heart. And though you may never want to admit it, you carry that truth forward. It shapes what you look for, what you tolerate, what you desire. It reminds you that not all love stories are meant to be lived, but all of them are meant to teach. In the end, falling for a married man leaves you with more than memories. It leaves you with knowledge, knowledge of what you long for, knowledge of what you cannot accept, knowledge of how your unconscious works against and for you. It is not just about losing him, it is about finding yourself in the process, even if it came at a cost you never wanted to pay. Before we continue, if you've ever wondered why some men stay in your memory long after they're gone, the Jung method reveals why and how to protect your heart. The link is pinned in the first comment. Now, let's go deeper. When you step away from a married man, the story does not simply end. It lingers in your mind like an unfinished book, a chapter without closure. And the human psyche struggles with unfinished stories. Jung taught that what remains unresolved grows in power. The more you try to bury it, the stronger it becomes. That is why you find yourself replaying his words, imagining what could have been, or asking questions that have no answers. This is not weakness. It is the way the unconscious works. It turns forbidden intimacy into something unforgettable, precisely because it was incomplete. Every time you revisit the memory, it becomes larger, more symbolic, more significant than it may have been in reality. You are not only remembering him, you are remembering the archetype he represented in your soul. What did he represent for you? Perhaps he symbolized devotion, because he had already chosen to commit to someone. Perhaps he symbolized stability, because he built a life that looked grounded and secure. Perhaps he symbolized strength, because he seemed to know who he was. These qualities are what your unconscious attached to him, and that is why he became unforgettable. Not because of every detail of who he was, but because of the image of permanence he carried in your eyes. And yet, the cost of this realization is heavy, because with every memory comes a mix of longing and regret. Longing, because he awakened parts of you that felt alive. Regret, because you know he was never truly yours. This duality keeps you trapped between wanting to move on and being unable to let go. It is a loop that many women carry in silence for years. But here lies the deeper truth. What you cannot release is not the man himself. What you cannot release is the part of yourself that was awakened in his presence. You tasted stability, loyalty, and depth, and now your soul refuses to forget that it exists. This is why no distraction feels the same. This is why you find yourself comparing others to him, even when you don't want to. The unconscious does not measure men equally. It measures the energy they represent, and his energy, tied to marriage and commitment, carried a weight unlike anything else. Still, you know, this story could never give you what you truly deserve, and that is where the painful lesson lives. A married man cannot offer you freedom. He cannot offer you a future that is yours alone. Even if he cared for you deeply, part of him was always claimed by another. To stay would have meant sacrificing your own wholeness. Walking away, even in pain, was the only way to protect your dignity. Jung believed that the shadow holds both danger and transformation. The shadow of this story is the shame, the guilt, the ache of losing what you thought you found. But transformation comes when you face it directly. Instead of denying your feelings, you begin to ask, what did I truly see in him? What part of me was longing to be recognized? What does my soul actually need to feel whole? When you start asking these questions, the memory shifts. He is no longer only the man you cannot forget. He becomes a teacher, a mirror, a symbol of what you value. And while you may never erase the ache, you can transform it into wisdom. Wisdom about what you will no longer accept. Wisdom about what you must protect. Wisdom about how love should feel when it is truly yours. Because here is the secret. You do not want him. You want what he represented. You want devotion, stability, commitment, presence. And these are not qualities that belong only to him. They are qualities that can exist elsewhere, with someone who is free to give them fully to you. When you realize this, the story shifts from tragedy to transformation. Still, healing is not immediate. There will be days when you remember him, with longing nights, when his image visits your dreams, moments when you feel the echo of what once was. But each time you face these memories, you are invited to see them differently, not as wounds that trap you, but as signs pointing you toward what you truly need. And maybe this is the greatest lesson. Intimacy leaves marks, especially when it crosses boundaries you never thought you would cross. You cannot erase those marks, but you can decide what they mean. Will they define you as someone broken, or will they guide you toward a love that aligns with who you are becoming? The choice is yours. In the end, the story of a married man is not about him at all. It is about you. It is about the hidden parts of yourself that surfaced in his presence. It is about the courage it takes to walk away even when your heart is burning. It is about the wisdom you carry forward, even when the scar remains. And so, you may never fully forget him, but you can learn to understand why he mattered so much, and how that knowledge can shape your future. Because every experience, even the forbidden ones, has something to teach you. And once you see that truth, you are no longer haunted, you are transformed. Healing after an experience with a married man is not linear. Some days you feel strong, convinced that you have moved beyond him. Other days, a small trigger brings everything back, a song, a phrase, the smell of his cologne. These moments make you doubt your own progress, but they are not signs of weakness. They are signs that your unconscious is still processing what happened. Jung believed that the psyche never wastes experiences. It transforms them into symbols, until you find their meaning. This is why you cannot simply get over him by force of will. The more you demand yourself to forget, the more power the memory seems to hold. Forgetting is not the path. Understanding is. When you ask yourself what he awakened in you, and why, you begin to shift the memory from pain to insight. Slowly, the story loses its ability to control you. You may also notice that part of what made him unforgettable was not him alone, but you, who you became in his presence. Perhaps you felt more alive, more desired, more vulnerable, or more daring than you had in years. Those feelings were not illusions. They were real parts of you, revealed in a context that could not hold them safely. To heal, you must honor those parts of yourself without tying them exclusively to him. They belong to you, not to his shadow. In your memory. This is the work of individuation, a concept Jung described as becoming whole by integrating every part of yourself. The relationship may have ended, but the lesson it left behind is permanent. Your soul is showing you what it longs for, not in the form of a forbidden man, but in the qualities he represented: devotion, consistency, stability. Once you see this, you can stop chasing his ghost and start building a life that honors those qualities openly. But individuation also demands honesty. You cannot heal by romanticizing the past. You must also face what was destructive. A married man, no matter how magnetic, could never give you freedom. His loyalty was already divided. His love, if it was real, would always come with conditions, and conditions are chains. To desire him was human, but to stay would have meant betraying yourself. This truth is painful, but it is also liberating. Over time, the memory begins to soften. You will still feel it, but differently. It will no longer hold the same sharp ache of loss. Instead, it will become a reminder of how strong you are to walk away, of how deeply you are capable of feeling, of how much you deserve a love that belongs fully to you. Pain slowly turns into wisdom, and wisdom into strength. And here is the paradox. He may remain unforgettable, but that no longer has to be a curse. It can be a marker, a point in your story where you learned something essential, not about him, but about you. You learned the danger of settling for half of what you need. You learned the cost of ignoring your own values. You learned that longing, without fulfillment, leaves scars, and those scars are there to guide you toward something better. So when his memory rises again, as it will, from time to time, you don't have to fight it. You can acknowledge it, breathe through it, and remind yourself, I do not miss him. I miss what he showed me about myself. I miss the devotion I deserve. I miss the stability I am capable of building in my own life. By reframing the memory, you take back your power. This is how healing truly begins, not by erasing the story, but by rewriting its meaning. You cannot undo the past, but you can decide what the past will teach you. And once you choose that, you are no longer haunted. You are transformed.